Good morning, YouTube. I don't know if you can see what's behind me there. That is a 2015 Chevy Equinox with the Ecotech engine that needs an engine. So obviously for the next couple of days I won't have time to work on any Hondas. I figured why not film the engine.
So yeah, here we have a 2015 Chevy Equinox all-wheel drive. Kind of the base model with the Ecotech 4-cylinder. 100 and I want to say 15K. So somebody drove the wheels off of this thing, but it's got newer brakes, got newer tires. I know nothing about the transmission. It's got a broken camshaft, so that's pretty common with these. I'm going to do a video on doing the motor. I've done a couple of them. Wait till you see how many pieces this thing has to fall into to get that Ecotech out of there. Alright, first step, I remove all four wheels. It's only really necessary to move the fronts, but I like to get pretty close to the ground when I'm working on it. Then I pull the axle nut, which I've already done. I'm about to spray everything with PB Blast. Like this tie rod and nut has to be sprayed, has to separate. I'm sorry. Probably this is how I'll separate the spindle from the suspension to get the axle to pop out, pop the axle out. While all that's happening, I'm going to slide the oil drain under and drain the engine oil and transmission oil if I can. Also, while the oil's draining, go ahead and take the clips out for the inner wheel wells. I have this tool here. You just grab it, pull, those two separate, and then you can pop out those little things after. There is a couple of Torx, Focus T20 Torx, and there are a couple 7mm bolts, and then the wheel well plastic inner liner comes out. Got the car lowered down, got those wheel wells out. There's a couple of other plastic pieces also that had to come out. This is the massive amount of plastic rivets collected from that. Alexa, stop. Sorry about that. At any rate, there is a ton more of those plastic rivets all along the top of the bumper cover. All this plastic has to go. So this thing, the air box, the battery, believe it or not, is underneath the ECU or PCM or whatever you guys call it. This I'll flip over and make a nice bolt tray out of it while I'm working on the car. And I've located the AC ports here and here because we're gonna have to go ahead and discharge the AC if there's anything in it. Luckily my machine's just right here, so we'll drag this out in the middle of January and knock the dust off of her and get this AC drained out while I'm pulling the bumper cover. 2 for 1. Okay, real quick. So after removing this top row of 4 Torx bolts, the bumper cover basically falls right off, you know, with the removal of the fender liners and whatnot. There was a couple more plastic trim pieces up top, and I'll be adding to that pile, I'm sure. Here I'm still waiting for the machine to sort of do its job. I removed the headlights as well. Probably didn't need to, but there was only one more bolt holding them. And now they're not in the way, and I won't break them. There's no potential of that. So just lined up that stuff on the bench over there, and I'll get to remove the rest of this plastic while I'm waiting for this thing. So as I was saying before, the battery's underneath this, so there's a series of how pop that out of the way, and then there are bolts here, here, and here. Now don't unplug this, right, before you unhook the battery, because you could send a short into the, this is the main computer, you could send a short, so unhook the battery first, then go ahead and unplug this thing, get it out of the way. That's want to do special attention to that. And still waiting for my machine. She covered just over a pound. So at first I thought this air conditioning may or may not work. I saw some green dye underneath it. It holds 1.4 3 pounds according to that. So it is short about a third the weight that's supposed to be in there. If it doesn't recover anymore, it doesn't really look like it is. It's sort of pulling air, pulling vacuum now. So technically I could stop it and remove the lines and I wouldn't have anything escape into the atmosphere. So here it is with all that plastic removed. You can actually see the coil packs, valve, throttle body. Get the battery out of the way. There's just a little bit more battery box in there, a couple bolts. There's a kind of a tin thing that may or may not be in the way. At this stage of the game, this thing should be just about done. It's recovered actually 1.34. So basically a full charge. Draining the antifreeze into a bucket while I pull the rest of this stuff out. Got a motor mount there that's going to have to go, one on the opposite side. And I'm determining whether or not I want to pull the radiator. It looks like the motor and subframe will fall out with the radiator and AC nuts are in place. Though it may be easier because they do separate the radiator support top section of the frame from the rest. And if I pull that, I'll be able to basically stand, right in front of the motor. So it's kind of a matter of preference, I think. But we'll find out together because I want to avoid pulling it until it tells me I have to. All right. So it turns out you do pull the radiator support because in order to pull the subframe, the radiator would fall down anyways. The feet sit on those 2 holes. So you pull 3 bolts in the bumper, that thing falls right off. And then I pulled this here, and I didn't disconnect the hood latch because I always have a problem getting those things hooked back up right. And if you close the hood and the hood latch isn't hooked back up right, it's an epic nightmare to get the hood back open. So I always just kind of bungee cord it out of the way in these scenarios. And yeah, it just exposed the whole front of the motor. You can see the AC pump, the alternator, the starter. This is gonna make this easy peasy. I'm glad I didn't drag my feet and pulling the bumper and whatnot because it just all fell right apart with that gun right there. All right, so here we have the wiring harness removed. I found that was the next easiest step. The harness was all kinds of in my way of just about everything. The fuel line, the radiator hose, just harness didn't want to come out of the way to save my life. So there was a couple of secondary air injection pumps kind of sitting there, as you can see. Pop those out of the way to be able to unplug them. And the hardest part of the harness was where it plugged into the rack and pinion. So has an electric power steering pump on it. And the plug went in facing the wrong way, kind of like sort of Volkswagen-y. Sorry, Volkswagen guys, but that's the best way I can describe it. You got to use a pick to get it to one side, and the rest of the plugs all came out like normal GM stuff. So it's opening right up, though, as you can see. I've been at it for probably about 3 hours now, and I'd say another hour and a half, 2 hours, and the motor will be ready to fall out. Did pull the drive shaft already. That was pretty straightforward, but there it is there, and both front axles. And this is the organization process. I just kind of put it in line the way I took it out of the vehicle. So yeah, there's the bumper front and headlights, all that trim. I kind of started this way, and I use this lift as a horseshoe with my tools on the end here.
And as you can see, a couple of heater core hoses, 4 bolts for the subframe, fuel line, and yeah, pretty much just falls out of there. Leaves a wide open cavity. I actually pulled it with the exhaust system because these bolts here don't look like bolts anymore. So kind of trying to wiggle it off the manifold, but now the motor's out, I can just pull the manifold off the back side of the motor. So, transfer case, transmission, engine. Torque converter came out of the end of the transmission, and it is an aftermarket torque converter, Vallejo. Maybe that's a factory one, I don't know. It's got a huge ridge on it right there that kept it stuck to the flywheel, the back of the crankshaft. So, hopefully I didn't tear the seal. Otherwise, there's all the big units. Here's the big empty subframe. And roughly, I ended up not separating the exhaust there and dropping the whole thing with the subframe. That was 6 hours of removal. Probably 2 hours of putting it back into its cradle in the morning, and then 6 more hours of buttoning up. Altogether, about 14-ish hours, I'd say. There it is. Chevy Equinox. If you haven't done one, you probably will. These are not very good vehicles.